All right, I think we are live. Damn, I almost had all those videos perfectly set up, too. So, all right, give me a mic check, guys, real quick.
Yeah, Mike, check. What's up?
Gonna turn you
Mic
up.
check 1 2. Mic check.
Make sure I'm not louder than all, because I noticed that we were louder the last time in the last stream. So, chat, how's it going tonight? I see that seven of you are actually in here. I'm gonna fix these videos real quick. And there we go. So, I think we got this. Looking good. So, I'm okay with this. So Noah, where's that cobbler?
I ate it before we got on here. I was
I
like,
thought you said
I'll
you
eat it now, but this
on.
desk is too small. I know the desk is just too small. It's really good though. I already ate it all. I mean, not all of it, but there's some left. But it was super good.
Nick, what did you have for dinner?
I had steak fingers from a local Sweetwater restaurant called Skeets, and it was okay. It was not good. They've gone downhill since the pandemic because no one wants to work there.
And it was blueberry cobbler, right, Noah?
A blackberry.
Blackberry.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
No one's getting
Get
fancy
some
on us.
vanilla ice cream on there.
Damn.
Luckily, I didn't make it. My girlfriend made it, but it was really, really good.
See, I can't cook to save my life. I can't do any of that. I can make one dish, and Nick is always yelling at me to do more than that.
Yeah, especially because sausage noodles isn't pretty healthy.
It's just fucking good though. I make it taste good. I make it taste good. I think we're good.
Nice.
Just need to put the chat in here, and then we will be Gucci.
Cool.
So for some reason with this stream, the chat box function doesn't work, so I have to make a whole different setup with it. So we'll make it work. So this is At The Line. Thank you guys for coming on this Monday night stream. I'm Ty Yeager. That's Noah Magaro-Geroge on the top left, and on the top right is Nick Yarbrough. Guys, how are we doing tonight on this lovely Monday night that's raining, at least in our area?
Doing pretty good. Sorry, I'm just checking how it looks on my end. It's pretty good. It's not raining over here, but it's relatively close.
Then of course Noah had cobbler.
It's not really raining over here. Yeah, I'm doing good because I had cobbler, so I'm feeling good. It's not raining over here. I'm talking with y'all, so of course I'm good.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to have a lot that we're going to run through tonight. We're going to talk about the two latest coaching newses in terms of Will Hardy going to the Celtics, Becky Hammon not getting the job with Portland, and a really weird article write-up that we obviously have a lot to talk about. And then we're just going to talk about some possible rumors, trade scenarios, all the lovely stuff going on around the NBA. There isn't too much new in terms of prospect. Noah, have you heard anything of new prospects that Spurs have worked out or interviewed lately?
No, nothing on that front. No, nothing.
That's what I thought. We've been keeping out. It's been a little bit quiet lately. Again, we're going to probably hear a lot more in terms of stuff of interviews and workouts after the season ends, most likely. And we have I'll be just under a month after the finals can possibly end with draft at July 29th. Also, make sure to resubscribe to at the Line here on Twitch and also on YouTube. We're gonna be streaming on both ends. We're gonna have a full. I have a name for our draft party, the Fiesta Bros draft party. How's that sound?
Hey, it's kind of like a certain person's podcast with 0 episodes.
Hey, I think at this rate we all have our own individual podcasts. Noah has Alamo City Limits. Did I do that right?
Yeah, no, you got it.
Oh no, we lost Noah. Did you unplug your mic? No? You unplugged your microphone, my man.
Did I? It's still going. It still shows I'm talking.
I can't hear you. You're very quiet.
Nick, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Keep talking.
Oof.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know why you can't hear me.
All right, now I get.
Okay.
You were
awesome.
very quiet. I got it. We got it now. I don't know what was on my end. Yeah. So also, chat. If you have any questions for us, we will be happy to answer. Unless we've already talked about them, we're not going to do. if you ask us a question about a certain player, something like that, we might not go too in depth because we probably talked about it. Make sure to check out the podcast episode that we did of our condensed stream from Saturday, where we talked a lot more draft prospects and all that. And if you want even more of that, we have a 2 full-hour stream on YouTube and also here on Twitch. So if you guys wanted to see back of any of our old stuff, make sure to check that out. But first, let's get in with the real news that has happened late last night. It was reported that Will Hardy, a assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs, who's also been with the organization for like 10 seasons now, is going to be joining Ime Udoka's coaching staff in Boston as an assistant coach for the Boston Celtics. It might not seem too big, but Will Hardy has kind of been like one of the youngest coach prospects lately. That's kind of been a hit. We've heard a lot of rumors of a lot of people saying that Will Hardy could have possibly what's it called? I can't talk. I want to say suppressor, but I can't. That's not the word.
Yeah, Pop's successor.
Oh,
yeah.
successor.
There we go.
Yeah.
So we'd heard that, and he came up as like a video coordinator, stuff like that. Kind of remind me a bit of Eric Spoelstra, a little bit. But he's going to Boston. Noah, what do you think about the move for Will Hardy?
I think it's good for him. I mean, he's from that Massachusetts area, so I'm sure he's happy to go home. He's familiar with Ime Udoka. They were on the staff together for a long time, so good for him. It's it's sad to see him go, but I'm sure it's good for his career. It's good for his home life, his family life, whatever. So, happy for him.
Yeah.
Nick, what do you think?
I mean, I'm happy for him, and it sucks to see him go. I never really saw him as Pop's successor. I guess, people want to say he was with the team so long. It's like if he's been with the team a long time, then Becky must be ancient, because she has been with the Spurs and in the Spurs system for so long. From playing in San Antonio to joining this coaching staff. I don't know. A lot of people spouted it as oh, it's an Armageddon. We lost Will, and I'm like, I saw more people upset about losing Will than the prospect of ever losing Becky, and I'm like, it sucks to see him go. Apparently he's a pretty great assistant. But I don't see him as some titan mind of basketball right now that some people have been portraying him as, and us losing an integral part of our future. I could be wrong. He could turn out as some Spoelstra, pre this year Brad Stevens. I don't know. I mean, it sucks, but I'm not too up in arms about it. I mean, yeah, it is what it is, I guess, right? It's kind of like losing Udoka. Okay, that sucks. Sorry. I mean, I'm glad you're having a good career. Sorry. I'm sure that, we have a couple great guys in the summer league coaching staff. So I think you brought up, and I was kind of looking into it, Brett Brown could be a good assistant coach replacement. I mean, there's options, and there's options that honestly probably have more experience than Hardy. And Hardy's proven to be at least a decent assistant coach, but he hasn't, I don't know. He hasn't proven a whole lot. And given he hasn't had a whole lot of time to prove, he hasn't had a whole lot of spotlight. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's being a bit overblown by some people in general. Not saying that I won't miss him, but just a little overblown maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, it felt to me like some people, it kind of was a mix of people were overblowing the prospects of Becky possibly leaving, signing somewhere else, and then now they are kind of overblowing with the prospect of Will Hardy leaving. And it's nothing new. This is not new for Spurs in any way, and this also happens across the league where assistants get that big league job essentially, and
yeah,
it's nothing new. So it's something that you shouldn't really be putting a lot of dire energy into if that's the case. But Will Hardy, he looks good. I think he's gonna have with the Udoka that his coaching improved even further once he grew up with the San Antonio assistant bench and then went somewhere else and learned another system. So it's probably gonna be the best for Will Hardy's career in terms of just becoming an even better coach in multiple systems across the league. So it's going to be promising
Yeah.
for him. It's just another pop coach into the system, and I think that's even better. Just you're going to see Pop's influence across this league for a long time, even after he retires.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a symptom that you see a lot. You see it with some people with DeMar. You see it with some weird people with Rudy talking about, I'm talking about with his defensive plus minus or whatever. Like, you see people in San Antonio, since we don't have a whole lot of high-end talent, we don't have a whole lot of spotlight, we grow attached to our players and our staff. And even if, like, to the point of way overvaluing them. And it's funny how some people say, well, the front office overvalues our assets for trading. It's like, I mean, y'all are overvaluing our front office. You're overvaluing most of our coaching staff. Not all of it, but like, I think it's a San Antonio fan trait to just be overly attached and not liking to, like, you hate to give up anybody. And it happened with Messina. It happened with Udoka. It's happening with Hardy. It'll happen with Becky if she leaves. Like, we're still we're still fine. And honestly, with everyone leaving, you don't really see the coaching, like the game plan and the scheming change that much, even with the talent changing. So you obviously don't really see their impact as coaches in the field of play. Maybe it's in the locker room, maybe it's on the bench, but it's kind of like, I mean, they're not out there like coaching like an assistant coach normally would. It seems more kind of like one-on-one player coaching that you don't really get in the spotlight. And I don't think we'll see that big of a difference if Pop comes back and Hardy's gone. I just don't think we'll see anything that crazy in the game plan. Now, record-wise, that's to be seen, but that'll be because of us only having 9 people under contract right now and our team makeup looking completely different after this season. So I don't know. If we have a bad season because we lose a lot of talent, whether it's good or bad for us, I'm sure a lot of people probably a couple months from now will be seeing the if only we had kept Hardy. Like, I wait for those tweets. If only we had kept Hardy. He was holding this team together. He was the glue guy. He was the glue guy to the Spurs. And I can't wait.
Honestly, that does sound kind of like a Spurs fan thing. No, you have any
No,
last
it's
words
gonna
on this?
happen.
No, I mean, honestly, I don't, like, in the nicest way I can say it, I don't really care. Like, I don't care if he's here or not, or I'm happy for him. I'm happy. I mean, it's normal. Coaches move on, they get hired, they flip from bench to bench, they're trying to become head coaches. That's the end game. So who cares if someone's gone? It'd be sad if it was Becky. Maybe a little more sad if it was Becky, because I think so many people, including myself, are invested in her becoming the successor for Pop. But no, I mean, no fan should care if an assistant leaves. They're just an assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think the even better thing, at least in terms of this, between the Chauncey Billups sign in Portland and Will Hardy leaving, it lays the doormat for Becky Hammon to take over at some point. Whether it be maybe this offseason, we don't know yet. I have a theory that Pop might retire after the Olympics, if that's going to ever happen this offseason, or if it happens next offseason, whenever Pop finally gets the record, does one last season in San Antonio and goes out that way. So I think no matter what, Becky Hammon is most likely going to be the predecessor, and it's going to either happen this offseason or next offseason, depending on how this goes.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like the consensus I would feel, right? Is like, it will be one of those things. I don't think any of us see Pop staying after, I don't see him staying past this upcoming season. Like, if he were to stay, I don't see him re-upping again or anything. And this is the last year on his contract, right? This upcoming season?
Believe
Yeah,
so.
it's the last year on his contract, and he's already, as of last season, the oldest coach to ever coach in the NBA. So, I mean, his time is, like, his days are numbered in the NBA. Not because he's like washed, but he's old. I mean, like, he can't do this forever.
I think, like, I mean, he's gone through so much recently, especially with his wife in the last couple seasons, dealing with that. And then after that, entering into a weird COVID season where it obviously took a toll on players and coaches alike. Losing out on the playoffs, having to try and navigate just this whole new kind of like culture shock with all these young players, just trying to make the best of it. I feel like it's probably worn him down a bit, and I don't really blame him. You can see it in his interviews, especially. He still has his little jovial moments, but he's kind of been a bit more of that like kind of biting like pop that people criticize him for. He's a little bit shorter in him. I don't know if he's just frustrated with it or done with it, but you can kind of tell that stuff has been wearing on him a little bit more than it has in the past. And I mean that just comes with age. That comes with the stuff he's been through. And yeah, I agree. I don't. He's so old. I don't like the word old, but he's getting up there. And I wouldn't blame him for hanging it up after the Olympics. And I feel like that's probably what should happen. But if he wants to stay and get the record, I'm totally fine with that. He's earned way more than just staying for the record. So I'm fine with whatever happens. Ty?
Is Ty
My
gone? I
mic,
can't hear
there
him
we go.
either.
My mic decided to mute itself, and I don't know why.
Sure.
Wow, you're gonna do that to me?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if he is gonna retire, it's gonna be after the Olympics. He's gonna get a gold medal and call it quits after that.
Yeah.
It's like it'd be weird to say that you're retiring and then go to the Olympics and continue to coach. It'd be a little weird. So I think after the Olympics, if he is going to retire this offseason, that's when it's going to be it. But let's go ahead and move on to probably the biggest shit on Spurs Twitter to start the week. Chauncey Billups got signed as the Blazers head coach after being an assistant coach for one season with the Clippers. And this was surprising.
Yeah, this is the first time he's beaten a woman. This time it was just in a competition. So
Ooh.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yikes!
I'm telling you, dude. Like, it bugs me seeing all this stuff about Chauncey, and I know it's harsh to say, but like, I've been seeing so many congratulatory posts and seeing like how this is so good for the league, and it's just I saw especially not especially like they were against it. Tom Petrini and Jackson Frank. Looking at their comment sections about their distaste about the hiring just makes me lose a little bit of faith in humanity as a basketball fan. It's just it sucks seeing, and I have more animosity towards him, especially because it led into this article.
Yeah, it was such a weird situation in knowing that Becky Hammon was probably one of the first female coaches to get so deep into a head coach hiring process. We saw that, and then suddenly there was this article that came out by Bleacher Report. I forgot what was the first name, Fisher for Bleacher Report, and there was just a little snippet in it that just seemed really off. I'm gonna read it real quick so everyone can get reminded. Hammon impressed Portland officials and was generally liked among Blazer staffers, sources said. But when Portland reached out for intel from San Antonio figures, the background on Hammond was not nearly as complimentary pertaining to various aspects of day-to-day coaching responsibilities. That sentiment had been echoed by sources around the league. Blazers personnel then cast doubt that Hammond was a candidate to steer the ship through such delicate waters with the Lillard.
Mm-hmm.
Let's kind of break that down. But first, Noah, what's kind of your comment on this whole thing? Because I know that you posted something about what Pau Gasol had said about Becky Hammon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we can talk about that in a second, but to me, it's just pretty much like a smear campaign on Becky to take attention off of themselves for hiring someone like Chauncey Billups. And I hear people make this argument that like, oh, well, people should be allowed to change, and everybody made mistakes when they're young. Like even Kendrick Perkins went on this like long tirade today on ESPN or whatever show he's on about how we have to give people a second chance, and everyone's always trying to tear down black men, and he tried to make it a race thing, and then he also brought up Jason Kidd, who's white. So I mean, you already defeated that argument by bringing up Jason Kidd, and he's in this conversation too, but not towards the Becky Hammon part. But I'll say this: Chauncey Billups should be allowed to grow as a person, right? He should be given a second chance, but I think that's only appropriate once you have paid the repercussions of your actions. And he didn't. There was no sort of like serious repercussions for his actions. There were no real consequences. He got to have a long career. He made millions of dollars. And, last time I checked, there wasn't some sort of big apology on his behalf. And I know some people say, oh, well, cancel culture is bad and people are digging up old tweet. Well, there's a difference between digging up an old tweet where somebody said something offensive and then somebody who sexually assaulted a woman and then settled it out of court. That's a completely different thing.
And
so to me, yeah, I mean, go ahead, Nick, because I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say on this. Like, I just don't like it.
It's funny coming from Kendrick Perkins, who was charged with a Class A misdemeanor, I think, for punching a woman in the face in a nightclub. That is just hilarious. Like I don't know, man. I don't get it. And that's the arguments that were thrown at me today about tearing down black men and stuff. Like, I get it. I understand that black men are, falsely accused at such a high rate. But from what I've seen, is that him and I believe it was a teammate, right, that he did this with, or a peer, were basically like they could have had the book thrown at them and they just settled out of court for it, and it's apparently a huge sum of money. And I tell you, if I was so sure that I was innocent, I probably wouldn't settle out of court, because as we all know, that's generally a pretty bad look. So. Yeah, I'm so over this Chauncey Billups talk.
For just going back to this, to what this article said, saying that, how do you, first off, whenever you do make Becky Hammon one of your finalists, how do you not know that information? I feel like that if you knew that information and that Hammon was not as nearly complimentary pertaining to various aspects of day-to-day coaching responsibilities, I feel like you would know that before you make her a finalist. I feel like that. Yeah. I feel like you would know that info, and
because it feels like you're using her, right?
Yeah.
It feels like you're using her at that point, like as some sort of PR stunt. Like, oh, we're the first team to ever bring in a woman for, the final rounds of a head coaching job. Well, like, you're right, Ty. Like, shouldn't they have known that beforehand? And like, who did they get the intel from? Because I think you could have gotten the intel from anyone. There's bound to be someone in any organization who doesn't like one individual. Like, regardless of like race or gender, there's always going to be somebody who doesn't like you within your organization. It's just not possible when you're that big of an organization and I have one person who doesn't like you. And like, if you go off the record, you can say anything. So I don't really buy into it. So, but anyways, you can continue.
To me, it's bullshit. I think it's complete bullshit.
And what I think we're gonna. Oh, sorry, Ty. Go ahead.
Because I was gonna say, like I said, I feel like if this information was such a turnoff for making her a head coach, you should have fucking known this before you made her a finalist and made it known to your sources, to your reporters that you are a source for.
100%.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that we're gonna see. We're gonna see this trend in the future. With Becky, maybe with other female head coaches. I think we're going to see some type of like Rooney Rule being used to the NBA for a PR stunt, except it's going to be based around gender. And this seems to be one of the first instances of it. Instead of you having to interview a black coach, you're interviewing a female coach, and they may not have to, but it looks like teams are going to try and pop themselves up in a PR stunt, say, oh, look, we're interviewing them. We're going to hire a former player with zero coaching experience in a checkered past. I don't know, man. Like,
I think once Becky or some other female, because I know that the Pelicans have a assistant coach that's coming up the ranks that could possibly take a head coaching job too there. Once there is a female head coach, I think the floodgates are going to open, and I think it's just going to become a normal thing where females are part of coaching staffs, and it's not going to be a major significant news thing. It's going to be part of everyday life, and that should be the goal. It's not trying to force. I don't think the league should try to force anything like that. It's not gone well in the NFL, but it's and I will say the league at least doesn't has an issue with race or anything like that when it comes to their coaches. It's just in terms of gender at the moment where it seems a little bit lackluster. But the league has made strides to forward that, with the WNBA getting a lot more press coverage, a lot more media coverage in terms of that they're getting pushed out there and they are getting support. And now you're seeing a lot more female coaches within coaching staffs, and now you're seeing Becky Hammon get interviewed. But to use that as a fucking PR stunt, what the fuck?
I mean, they also interviewed another female head coach. They interviewed Dawn Staley, who's the head coach for the South Carolina Gamecocks women's program. So, like, I don't know. It kind of felt like they also brought her. Now, when you look at it from the outside after all this stuff, like they brought her in as well, just to say, not only did we interview a woman in the finals, but we also had another woman in the running. Like
Yeah.
it just is. It was really, really weird. And I would also say, like, not only does the NBA have like a gender problem in terms of wanting to allow females to have an opportunity to coach, but like also for a league that's primarily black, there's like almost no black head coaches. So like I do think there's still like some issues there. But yeah, I think the NBA and I'm glad that they went with like the Black Lives Matter movement. They supported it and that they put stuff on the court and back of jerseys. But to me, that only really goes so far. And I think sometimes the NBA pretends to be more woke than it actually is.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
What's funny is aren't 3 out of the 4 remaining coaches in the playoffs black?
Yeah.
Atlanta,
Nate
Clippers,
McMillan,
and the Suns. The only white ones.
Williams.
Bud.
Monty Williams, and Ty Lue. Yeah, you're right.
Like you think that, I don't know. I feel like you would follow trends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, because race has always been seen as like a kind of like, I don't want to get into it, but not a here nor there. Like you know where it's going whenever you're talking about race and when you're talking about especially black versus white in positions of power, especially in sports. I don't know. I feel like the natural progression would be for more female coaches to be hired. And I'm not saying that you should hire a female coach over a male, even if the male is more qualified. I'm just saying, like, don't use them for brownie points on
don't use
Twitter
them
and
as
Bleacher
props.
Report.
Don't use them as props.
Exactly. And that's clearly what's been happening because they hire they interview these 2 female coaches and then go ahead and hire Chauncey Billups of all people. Like, it doesn't make sense.
And it's like it's not that you should be favoring someone over someone. It's that give them a fucking equal chance. That's all that they want. But to only use them as a prop to get brownie points, and especially you were looking at, like we talked about the Mavs in terms of that they hired, that they had a whole issue, the whole PR like failure in terms of how that organization was being ran, and then they hire a female GM. They put out efforts to really change the culture there, and then suddenly you go with Jason Kidd. Like I'm not saying that they needed to hire Becky Hammon or anything like that, but you could have had some better targets. And also, let's be honest, Jason Kidd is not a great head coach. Let's just say that he is not a great head coach.
What's funny is that he's proven himself to be a pretty shit head coach, and he gets this chance. From what I've heard, is that he's kind of the one that broke Giannis's jumper, which is just a travesty, or helped break it. He kind of held the hammer while someone else shattered it. I don't know. But yeah, do y'all have anything else y'all want to say about this Becky situation?
And for the people saying that, it could have been the Spurs trash talking them so they couldn't leave. That's not how the fucking Spurs work.
Yeah,
I find that as complete bullshit. Just in terms of that's not.
And if it was, like, I feel like they're gonna sniff that out pretty quickly.
Yeah,
they're gonna find someone, and you will see them gone from the organization. That just doesn't happen in the Spurs. From what we know, I mean, I don't care. Like, I don't work for the Spurs, but that just seems like unforgivable. I don't see that happening. I don't see a freaking like part-time water boy that works like Pee Wee League games in AT&T Center or whatever saying that stuff, let alone someone in the front office or anything.
It's weird. It's a whole weird situation. And then add on this article from Bleacher Report. And it's clearly from other sources, so it's most likely a leak from somewhere. It's not. And knowing how tight-lipped San Antonio is, that shit ain't getting out. We don't know what the fuck this team does in the offseason for a reason, because they're tight-lipped and they're not going to let things get out that easily. So there's a lot of weirdness around it. There's a lot of very sketchy suspect type shit going around, and it sucks that Becky Hammon is stuck in the middle of all this bullshit.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and read some of the comments if you guys don't have it in front of you. Just reading stuff. Dirty Hard Money. Yeah, I think we need to stop focusing on Billups and what he did. Focus on most likely scenario. What they didn't want to hire a woman. Just kind of read. Do you have the chat in front of you, Nick?
Um, I just pulled it up. I don't have any of the new comments.
Pop, yeah, so Dirty Hard Money said, no, Pop has never stood in the way of someone being poached. He's never have.
Ever.
We saw it literally last night where he wasn't going to sub Will Hardy to go get a job with Udoka. That was not going to happen.
And I doubt he would stop it at Becky. If he didn't stop at Messina, like, I don't see him stopping at Becky. I feel like, I hope I'm saying his last name right. It might be Messina, I don't know. But, yeah, like, he felt like part of Pop. It felt like he was related to Pop the way that they look and talk to each other on the bench. So I don't see him stopping at Becky. Like, I don't see him jumping in and, like, sabotaging. Pop is many things, but a saboteur isn't one of them.
So, all right, you guys have any last words on this before we move on?
No.
I'm good.
All right, Jake the Snake actually brings up an interesting conversation for us. He says, I think last night showed us that John Collins is expendable when the Hawks use Okongwu. And Okongwu had a good night. I didn't watch too much of it. I was doing my own thing. But with the cap situation that the Hawks currently have going forward, with needing to max out Trae Young, going to keep our pieces, having Okongwu on the bench, what's our kind of... Is anyone's thinking with the Hawks organization of what they might do with John Collins change since last night?
Can I just gloat for a second? Because I had like I had to delete my tweet because I was getting attacked so much. All I said was, Okongwu is the backup plan to Collins. And they said, no, he's the backup plan to Clint Capella. No. I got like attacked by like some big Hawks people, and I was like, okay, whatever. Funny that I was exactly right, and that Okongwu basically takes Collins' place for way less money. And they're not the exact same player, but he takes his place. He's the one that picks up where he would leave off when someone else signs Collins. So I feel a little bit vindicated by that. But yeah, I'm still on page on Collins. I don't know about giving him a max. I'm still not like 100% against it, but I don't know if we'd have to offer a max. Maybe. I don't know. With so many teams in cap hell right now, I don't know many that would offer him the $28 million. And if we can get away with like 24, I'd do that.
No, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I've never really been big on John Collins. I know Tom Petrini wrote a really nice article about John Collins. He's probably like the biggest John Collins supporter I know. He watches a lot of basketball. I mean, he understands basketball. I'm not going to deny that, but there's a lot of things that you could write good about John Collins, and then there's a lot of things that you can take away from John Collins by removing him from Atlanta. Atlanta is one of the best spacing teams in the NBA. They have one of the best playmakers, shooters with the most gravity as a scorer and a driver in Trae Young, and San Antonio doesn't have that. San Antonio cannot provide that same sort of infrastructure, so I think if you're getting John Collins, I'm fine with that. $24 million, I'm fine with that. I just want Spurs fans, before he gets here, to just realize he probably will have a dip in productivity. He probably will have a dip in efficiency. And aside from that, like, people keep saying like he's this great creator, he moves pretty well off ball, but he only scored 20% of his baskets unassisted last season. Like, everything was from another teammate. And he sets good screens and he rolls well, but I just don't really think that you're going to get like this primary number one option in John Collins. You're just going to get somebody who's a complimentary player, and I don't know how far that takes the Spurs, but if that's what they want to do, you got to take risks. Like, you're a team that's a small market. Players who are, big time don't come available that often, so if they take a risk on him, I'm fine with that. But I think Spurs fans have to be more realistic, pretty much with anyone who comes in the organization, not just Collins, but really everybody who sets foot into this organization.
How do you feel about, because I've been really shifting, and we've already talked about DeMar for KP and stuff like that or whatever. How do you feel about just like filling out the roster with our draft pick and then a couple one-year deals and then trying to swing hard because like next year's free agency is insane. How do you feel about that over anything?
I also would be fine with that. I just think, and we've talked about it a lot. I've talked on my podcast. We've talked about it, like, until Pop is gone, and I'm not saying I want him gone. Like, I don't think you know the direction of this team. So, next year, if you do decide, or this offseason, rather, I guess you decide you just get a few one-year options or maybe a 2-year with like a second-year option, and you just fill out the roster with the draft picks. I'm really fine with that. I'm not really that worried about that. And, like, assuming next year there's this really great class, like, you may be able to chase after someone. But my concern is like that was what was said a few years ago with like the Giannis class, and then everybody pretty much like re-upped with their teams. But you never know. Like you can't predict that sort of thing. So I'd be fine really either way. Honestly at this point I'm sort of just kind of like along for the ride and trying to enjoy what we can get out of the young guys that the Spurs have, and we'll see who they draft and we see who they can sign, because they're in an awkward position, but that doesn't mean like as fans or even as media members like you have to be miserable. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to you can be happy just sort of seeing what's going on.
So there was an article that came out today about the Warriors fiercely shopping Wiseman in the 7th pick. What do you think a package looks like around that? Because I want to buy Wiseman stock. Like, I still like Wiseman. I think that, again, like, the Warriors aren't a bad organization, but he went into a rough spot on a weird team that had weird chemistry issues, led by someone who probably has the highest usage rate of all time, or one of them, being buried behind a center who he's taller than, and a lot worse than right now. So I'm still
I mean, I would be fine with it. I think last year Wiseman was 12 on my big board. I was pretty low on him compared to the consensus, or at least like the big national media big board consensus, because he's somebody who he clearly has talent, he has mobility, but he's also super raw. Like he played very unorthodox for a center in high school and wasn't particularly efficient. And then in college, he played like 3 games and then that's all we got. And now he has to play NBA competition. So yeah, I mean, like he's going to be a gamble, but for somebody who's a second pick from a year ago, I don't think you can really go all that wrong trying to get him in the 7th pick. But man, I don't know what a package looks like. That's really tough. Like maybe, I don't know. Like, do you even have one in mind? I think so. And I wouldn't be keen on that, but it's not like a forever contract now, right? It's like 2 years left, something like that.
Like, I was thinking if DeMar would want to sign and trade, I feel like he would. I feel like he would complement the We've already been over this, but the Warriors really well. But like maybe sign and trade DeMar 12 and another future first, or Lonnie or Wiggins, Wiseman at 7, and that gives us Wiggins, Wiseman, and maybe Scotty Barnes out of it, which I think is a pretty good haul, and those pieces complement the Warriors really well. Or maybe we could throw Jakob in there because they'd be missing out on a pretty good center. Like they'd be missing out on some size. I don't know.
I just think if you trade for him and you get him, go ahead, Ty.
I was gonna say a package with the Warriors, it would certainly try. The Warriors themselves would be trying to relieve themselves of that cap hell that they're stuck in. Like I feel like that's a must.
Yeah, and I feel like if you get like Wiseman and you're moving away from Jakob, then he's pretty much automatically your starting center. And to me, that signals you're not trying to win right now. And I think as long as Pop's here, they're going to try to win. So I don't know how that works out. But also, like the 7th pick, I think Scotty Barnes would be a fantastic value there. But he's also a guy who, like, I think if you're thinking of trading up in a draft, then you pretty much need to know it's somebody who's going to be able to help you, not just like necessarily immediately, but like long term, they're going to have some like significant value. And I think to a certain point, like Scotty Barnes is almost like a poor man's Ben Simmons in terms of how he drives to the basket, gets people involved. He can shoot a little bit, but not really. Like at this point, he doesn't. And I know people see like those workout videos, and I'll just say right now, like everyone has workout videos before the draft happens.
That's
and
everyone.
Everybody looks better before the draft happens. So like I don't really buy into it, but I like Keon. I mean, there's just so many guys. Like I think the Spurs are in a perfect position at 12 where there's so much good talent that you almost can't go wrong. Like at 12, you could potentially pick Josh Giddey, Franz Wagner, Moses Moody, James Bouknight, Jaden Springer, Keon. I mean, there's just so many guys, and Kai Jones too would also be in that mix. So it's like at 12, you might as well just play it safe there. And I know like you don't want to play it safe forever if you're the Spurs, but to me, you're almost like moving up 7, like for what you're going to have to give up or even take back in return in terms of cap. It may not be worth it, but I mean, it could be. It could be in the long run. Maybe James Wiseman, you get the most out of him and he becomes something better. But and I'm not a huge guy on NBA comps like for players, but if you had to give a comp for Wiseman, he's like in terms of how his game and like how he approaches it and his style and his feel for the game at this point, he's more comparable to someone like Hassan Whiteside, who clearly has become almost useless in the NBA. and that's not a good thing. Like that's not a good thing. You want more than that out of the second pick. But maybe they get more out of him. Like what could Hassan Whiteside could have become? Like we could throw that out. If he had been with a better organization, who knows? So I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I think they'd have to think about it for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's what, and I think someone brought up a great question in the chat, and I think it kind of really relates to this. Derry Harmley asked, do you think the Spurs development machine might be overrated and is just kind of cruising on their history? And I think this really plays well in terms of, if you do get Wiseman, I think your goal would be to further develop him, especially since he has so little experience in terms of professional play, only playing those 3 games in college and not even playing a full season this last season in Golden State. What do you guys think about that, starting with you, Nick?
Yeah, I wouldn't call the Spurs development machine overrated. Like, I think if anything, it's still underrated because we're still being able to develop people like Lonnie, like Derek, and DeJounte at 29. Lonnie was what, 18?
18, yeah.
I mean, Devin's like a lot of these guys had almost 0 minutes in their whole first season, sometimes their first and second season, like with Lonnie, and they're still looking like players who at least played decent, consistent minutes through their first 2 seasons. So the development is there, the system is there. I think it's being held back, if anything, by how rotations are employed, and we've been beating a dead horse with how weird rotations are for the team. I wouldn't call it overrated at all. I would call it it's being throttled right now by vets, and I think it could return to glory pretty soon if the people that we've been talking to, their reports are true about the team going almost strictly youth this season.
Yeah,
so that's just me.
If the cards are played right, you could see the development just kind of skyrocket. You still see the Spurs be able to develop undrafted
talent.
That,
right, is I guess maybe not the biggest, but like look at how big of a playmaking leap Lonnie took from his second season to his third, where the second he didn't even really play either. And all of a sudden he's this like extremely strong playmaker and passer. Came out of almost nowhere. And I know he had some of the skills before, but like he looks like someone who played serious minutes throughout the start of his career with the way he's able to create shots, pass the ball, play make, like set up guys for good shots. And like that's on the Spurs development team. And of course, he was working in the off season with people like Drew Holiday and stuff who probably taught him a few things. But like, our guys are developing without really playing. And when there's players from their draft class who are playing without developing, So maybe I'm being a bit too protective and maybe a little biased, but I don't see it as necessarily overrated at all. Noah?
Yeah, I mean, I would not call it overrated. And I know I keep saying, like, I don't mean to be, like, bashing Spurs fans. I love Spurs fans. I'm a Spurs fan to a certain extent, too. Like, but I look at this and I just think it's, like, funny. People are always hooked on this idea that, like, you get Tony at 28, you got Manu at 58, you got Kawhi at 15. And, like, Kawhi is sort of like a historical outlier. Work ethic is off the charts. He had all the physical attributes you wanted. We just weren't sure if he was going to develop as an offensive player. It worked out. But with like Tony and Manu, that was really before the whole league picked up on the sort of advent of international scouting. Like now everybody's on that train. Everybody's looking overseas in college. They're looking in the G League now that players can skip college and go to the G League. So, San Antonio is going to miss out on international guys because everybody is looking at those guys now. So if we're being realistic and we're looking at who they've got, like we've got guys like Keldon, we have people who like DeJounte and Derek at 29. Most players drafted at 29 only ever become role players if you're lucky. These are 3 guys who are clearly at the very bare minimum starter level players. So if that's what they're doing with the developmental system, then that's excellent. That's literally better than most of the league. And I'm not being a homer in any way. Like that is just better than what most teams do. There are some teams like the Kings or the Cavs or the Magic who draft consistently at the top of the draft. They're poor at identifying talent, work ethic, and they don't know how to bring along players. And so they're just stuck in purgatory, even though they should be getting good players.
And like
you see, the Spurs are there picking late and they're fine.
And you see those players specifically get stuck in purgatory themselves. You look at Mo Bamba, Marvin Bagley. I think De'Aaron Fox is kind of stuck at this point. But like players of those that top like 5 caliber getting stuck with these teams that just don't know how to utilize them, don't know how to develop them. It hurts their careers in the long run too, and it sucks.
No, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
Actually,
I mean, yeah. Go
someone
for it.
brought up. We've talked about Giles a little bit. We've talked about Bagley. I feel like I know where you're sitting on this, but how do you feel about Rashawn Holmes on a contract somewhere between 16 and 18 million a year?
I really liked Rashawn Holmes a year ago. Like, I was pretty public about liking him because I think he brings something to the team that they don't have in terms of a lob target. He's also a really good rim protector. He can play more than just drop coverage in certain situations, depending on the other team's personnel. But I think right now it doesn't make a lot of sense because you'll never ever be able to play him alongside Jakob because they both cannot shoot. And so I don't know. I wouldn't bring him in unless you're maybe moving on from Jakob. But I do like him a lot. Like I want to get that straight. I do like him a lot.
And at that number,
would I start him over Jakob?
I guess depending.
No, not necessarily because I think they're just so like redundant. I'd rather have someone who you can maybe bring you like a little bit of a different skill set. Like, and that's why I think I like Kai Jones so much at 12, not to keep going back to Kai Jones, but like someone who has the potential to at the very least be like a standstill 3-point shooter who can be a rim protector to a certain extent, but has the mobility to guard on the perimeter better than Jakob does. And then also someone who can be a lob catch target. So that's why I like him more than I like potentially adding Rashawn Holmes to this team. I see somebody in the comments asked about Bagley. I like him too. I'm pretty sure he's still under contract. I think that would be a fine like buy low swing, but because he has a different skill set than Jakob, obviously, and he can play a little bit of 4 and 5. But even so, I don't know what it's going to take to get him. I don't know if the Kings are ready to give up on what was he? He was the second pick, right? Like he was before Luka and Aiden, or he was right after Aiden, rather. Yeah, so that's crazy. That's insane. But he's also been injured, so that's a little bit of a red flag. He's always been injured.
I think that you'll find out what the Kings' future is with Bagley coming up, because he is coming up on the last season of his rookie contract. He should be, if they are going to extend him, it's going to happen this offseason. If not, he's going to restricted free agency. So
yeah, I have one more question for both of y'all about players, and Ty knows where to sit on this. Like, and I just have to ask you, and I hope you answer correctly. What do you feel about Jarrett Allen, especially whenever his asking price is looking at over $22 million a year, up to $25 million a year?
I really like Jarrett Allen. If I had to choose between Jarrett Allen and Jakob Poeltl, I would take Jarrett Allen every day. But the fact that Jarrett Allen would be asking that sort of, he would be commanding that sort of dollar, I wouldn't be interested. And I also, even if he was asking for less, like sort of in that Rashawn Holmes range, I wouldn't be interested because I think he does bring pretty much the same skill set as Rashawn Holmes. He's a little bit redundant to Jakob. So I think he's really good, but I think he's going to get overpaid. I think he's maybe a little bit overvalued at this moment, but I do think a lot of fans may underrate him, but at the same time, he's probably going to get overpaid. And that's a weird line to be sitting on, but that's basically my opinion on Jarrett Allen. I don't really think they need him.
I would agree with that. I agree in terms of that. He's redundant.
Yeah.
He's the price point's too high.
Whenever the money was going out, before the money went out, I was thinking, well, it'd be cool to get Jarrett Allen, right? Like 13, 14 a year. Like that's fair for his skill set, what he brings. But like I saw an article, and I think it may have been a tweet from maybe not Chris Haynes, maybe Zach Lowe or someone, where it said somewhere that the Cavs or someone maybe giving him up to $25 million a year, and I'm just like, I mean, that sounds like a Cavs move. I wonder if I can find that real quick. Y'all keep talking. I'm gonna see if I can find that real quick.
Yeah, the price.
Yeah, I mean, with Jarrett Allen, I think he's valuable, right? Like Ty, you know he's got to have some value. I mean, he was good for the Nets. He looked really good with the Cavs, but still, I don't know. I wouldn't pay him that much. I see somebody asked about Christian Wood for the 12. I don't think that would never happen. They value him too much for the 12th pick.
Yeah, look at this. So May 16, 2020, and this was on Cavaliers Nation, but it was pushed by Bleacher Report, a couple other places. Right here, NBA. So this is just from an NBA agent, but they seem pretty tapped in overall in the market. Well, said NBA agent says Jarrett Allen could draw a contract around $25 million a year. I I think anything over 16 is an overpay, and anything over 18 or 20 is a ridiculous, like, lose your front office job overpay, especially on a contract that's probably would be at least 3 or 4 years. So yeah, I had a lot of people that I was talking to arguing with the past couple months about, like, they want Jared Allen. They said give him 20, give him 25. I'm like, I wouldn't give DeMar 20, dude. Like, or 25. I don't know about 20. But, like, y'all gotta slow down. Jared Allen is not as good as y'all think, man. Keldon Johnson dropped 20 rebounds on him in a game. Like, y'all got to chill out a little bit.
I'm trying to look at the numbers so I can compare him, and it's not like he does too much different than Jakob in terms of like per game he is scoring slightly more. He's getting slightly more rebounds, like maybe 2 more per game. And I know that makes a difference for sometimes. Like he can bring you double on probably a nightly basis. He was averaging that with this season with like 12.8 points per game and 10 rebounds. Yeah. But I'm not sure.
That's on a bad team where a player that would command a 25 mil contract should be giving you at least 18 and 13 at that number at least, especially on a team without any other use of bigs.
But I don't see. While he might bring you some more offense, he's not bringing the same defense that Jakob can do. And like Noah said, it's very redundant to have 2 of those guys on the roster, especially if you're paying him $13-15 million more than Jakob Poeltl. It's you should be saving your money. Go with the price efficient version of what you want, and it's again the difference is not too drastic between the two. Yeah, he can dunk and probably put more a highlight show, but it's just not as like it's you do have an abundance of cap, but don't go wasting on redundant pieces. Don't go wasting on guys that are not going to fit your system or anything like that.
He's Dwayne Dedman without foul troubles and an afro. Like, that's how I see him. I'm just not a big Jared Allen fan, and that's hyperbole.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really want Jared Allen on our team. He's a good bench mob guy, but he's not as good as Drew. He's a good defensive guy. He's not as good of a defender as Jakob. He's a good rebounding guy, but you don't give someone $18 million a year for rebounding unless they're giving you like 20, 25 a game. He won't score that many points.
The thing with Jared Allen, though, I think is like he's still really young. You know, like he's only 22 years old, and I think he hasn't necessarily scratched the surface of what he can do. He's shown some shooting potential. Like he's willing to shoot the 3 when he's open, but he's not really knocking it down. But he's also he's not shooting a good percentage. I think career he's like 32, 33. But if we're going to make the argument he can't shoot, like Luka Šamanić also shot like 29% from 3. So I don't think percentages are necessarily always representative. But yeah, again, like I think the biggest point is he's just redundant on this roster. Can he be a better lob target than Jakob? Yeah, like 99% of NBA centers are. But that's not the end all be all for NBA centers. And I want to ask y'all a question, and I'll give you, my opinion on it in a second. But I don't really think Jakob's a starting center in the NBA unless he's in the right situation, and clearly San Antonio isn't winning, so that's not the right situation right now.
He would be the best backup center in the league, probably. But Ty and I have been talking about this for a while. Like, he should not be our long-term solution at center.
And there's a reason the Spurs only signed him for 3 years, too, by the way, just as a reminder.
But with that being said, I don't want to take away from just how incredible he is defensively and how clutch he can be in some aspects, and how good of a bridge he's been. Because if we didn't get him in that trade, man, like, we may still be paying 75-year-old Pau Gasol to help our young guys. Like he's been good for us. He's produced more than we could have asked, especially in that trade, since he was just kind of tacked on. But like, he shouldn't be starting a year or 2 from now for us. He should be an insane backup, though, and help Derek run that second unit. If Derek's a second unit, I don't know. It depends on who we draft, I guess.
Yeah, no, I feel that way. Ty, do you feel the same way?
I still think that Jakob can be a starting center. He just does a lot more in terms of he's the defensive anchor. He does a lot more on offense than the stats than the box scores going ever show. He does a lot more off-ball stuff. The screen. What was it? I forgot what the ranking was, but he was like one of the top screen assist guys in the league. And I think he does a lot more than the box score. And yeah, the lack of dunking early on in the season and kind of throughout the season was not a great look. Eventually he started dunking again, and then the free throw issues came up, and then he kind of resolved. I think he's definitely can still grow. I'm not going to say that he's never going to be like an all NBA center. He's not going to be anything like that. He's never going to be one of the top centers in the league. I don't think that's. But
do you think he can start for a contending team? I think is the question.
I think so too. The center position
in the right situation,
Yes.
though.
Like he could
It
start.
has to be the
beside
right
AD
situation.
and
Like if you're
LeBron.
with like a LeBron or Luca, sure.
like that.
yeah.
Like
He honestly could be starting that Nets team, and again, that's a situation thing. He could be starting with the Clippers. It's like there's some teams that he's not going to beat out guys like Ayton, but there's some teams that he think he can be pretty valuable in if he's utilized the proper way. Now,
is he a top 15 center?
I think he's close to it.
He's
Maybe.
close. He's close.
Probably
I don't-
around somewhere between 14 and 17, right?
He's one of the if you're
Yeah, so
looking,
maybe somewhere around there.
if you're looking at like all 30 teams and their centers, Jakob is certainly in the top 15 part of like the better 15 half of the league, I would say, in my opinion. Just in terms
Okay,
of
do
defense
you think
maker.
he should be the long-term center from our team? We're not talking
Now,
about
long
other
term, like
teams.
I don't think long term it's gonna be. I don't think that's gonna be right. It's just again they signed him for. He only has 2 more seasons left on his contract, and I think that kind of gave the Spurs some wiggle room in terms of see if he can develop his offensive game further. I would love. We saw a tape of this during his draft and occasionally in Toronto where he did take the 3, where he actually took some shots outside of the paint. I would like to see him. I like to see more of a green light for him on that part because I want to see what he can do. I would like to think he has a jump shot, but it's just we haven't seen. He has never been in the role or position to do that. So
Yeah. I also feel like, and this I could be completely wrong. I want y'all to correct me if I am. I feel like DeMar never looked at him that often whenever it was DeMar's turn to play make. And I could be wrong on that. I
Like
feel
Jakob?
yeah,
Jakob?
Jakob. I could be wrong, but I feel like Jakob and like Derek, Jakob and Lonnie had like really good connections that Jakob just didn't share with DeMar, who was our main playmaker for the better part of 2 years.
Yeah. I think you're right to like a certain extent. I also think Jakob is super limited as like a target for. I mean, because it's hard to get him the ball. You have to. There is no above the rim play for him as a lob target. That's just not going to happen. So everything's got to be bounce pass. Everything's got to be you find a little opening to get him the ball. And then once he's near the rim, he's not much of a dunker unless he's like wide open and he has a lane to take off from. So he's going to throw up those little floaters, the pop-up shots, and I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't really like. I don't care too much that DeMar didn't look at him that much, but it is a little strange that like it seemed that DeJounte and Derek had a lot better chemistry with him. I did want to just address something in the comments about Şengün at 12. Every time I see that name, I will say no. I like him. I think he's really solid, but in the lottery, I don't think he makes sense. The more and more I watch of him, like anytime I see someone suggest Şengün at 12, I'm gonna say no.
Go watch his defensive.
Like it's gonna be really rough.
It is the worst.
Like to me, honestly, it's like to me, he's not even like he's. I don't even think he's like an awful defender. I think he's gonna be like average, just at the peak average in the NBA there. But like if you look at like the way the NBA is going, there's not a lot of like strictly post bigs anymore who are taken in the lottery, and there's a reason for that. Like people say he can shoot. He can't. He didn't hardly shoot at all. There's a bunch of videos of him shooting, and again, that's what happens during draft season. So I hate to get like off course, but anytime I see the name Şengün, really like him, think he's worth a gamble like outside the lottery, but at 12, no. Like if you're hoping for Sabonis, not only does he weigh less than Sabonis, he has a more slender frame than Sabonis. He's shorter than Sabonis. He's undersized for a center, so no. He's 18 years old. He has room to grow. That could be you could say the same thing for any 18-year-old.
Yeah.
I don't like that that like line of thinking that you're 18, therefore you have forever to grow. Like you could say the same thing about any 18-year-old, and I know he was dominant like in the second best league in the world probably, but that's still not the NBA.
Yeah, and
so that's just my tangent. Oh man, yeah, and like I don't think he's awful. Like again, I'm not gonna say he's bad, but like he doesn't make a lot of sense at 12. I think if that's your dude, trade down because he'd be fine later, but in the lottery there will be better options.
Am I the only one that gets pissed off now that like some mock drafts just kind of do the easy way out with picking Spurs and just say, yeah, let's go with one of the top like international picks, just because that's how the Spurs have done it, even though the Spurs have not fucking done that for the past 3 seasons where they drafted DeJounte, Lonnie, Derek, Keldon. Yeah, they drafted Lucas Samanic at 19, but that was kind of a given. But it's like that's kind of not been the Spurs go-to in the past 5 drafts.
And have we even we haven't drafted the European in the second round in a while either, right?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. No,
it's been like Weatherspoon, Metu, Blossom Game was before Metu, right?
Yeah, and I don't think there was a second round pick with DeJounte. So, it's I hate that. It's just a cop out for some of these mock drafts, and some of these guys just don't fucking make sense. But
I think because of like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like we're gonna see an influx of overrated international players, especially with the success of people like Luka and Jokic and stuff like that. And in part due to the Spurs' due diligence, like picking, earlier, especially international players. But I feel like seeing some of these players high, and I don't know a lot about them, but you see like Sengun, like they're getting just a little bit overrated because it's hard to identify the talent they're playing against and how that would translate to the NBA. Because I feel like it's a lot easier to translate basketball skills, like NCAA skills to the NBA and kind of project it, but in like overseas leagues, it can be a little tricky, especially because a lot of the times they're not playing against other people who are going into the draft. But in the NCAA, a lot of these kids are playing against each other. So you can kind of get a feel where they're going. So, and go ahead.
Oh no, I thought you were finished.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm basically done.
So I do want to talk about Giddey with you, Noah, because Giddey's kind of like a weird prospect. At least I can't judge. I can't really make a determination about. Like, there's some things that I think would really work well with the Spurs team, and then there's other things like I feel like there's a bigger needs at a 4 or 5 position. I've looked at tape, I've looked at his weakness and strengths, and I kind of my impression, but I want to see where you're at with him.
Yeah, I think if Giddey's there at 12, you have to take him. He's a better passer than anyone on the team right now. And yeah, like somebody said earlier, someone's 18 and like you have to take that into account. Sure, if we want to do that, then Giddey is also 18, so he's hardly even really grown into his frame. He's still pretty slender. He finishes really well at the rim, actually, for someone who's so small, but I think his issue is getting there. He doesn't have very great athleticism. He's pretty limited there. As a shooter, he's not as bad as his percentages show. He was really bad. Like, he was so bad at the start of the year that by the time he started figuring things out, it was too late. Like, his percentage was, I think, ended up at 30% from 3, but it was better over the second half of the season. And I think it's important to remember, like, he played in the same exact league where LaMelo Ball just came out of, where RJ Hampton just came out of, and he had a much better season than RJ Hampton did, and RJ Hampton looked pretty good during his rookie year. And I think Josh Giddey has more tangible skills. Like, he's not just an athlete. He's not just someone who can pull up. Like, he's got some things that are going to probably be an issue once he gets to the NBA, but I don't think he's a guy who you look at immediately and say, like, oh, well, it's just not going to work out. Yeah. He's never going to get better because all these guys are young. They have time to grow.
And one of the things that I really like about Giddey is that basketball IQ. Dude is fucking brilliant in terms of basketball IQ. I was watching some breakdown tape, and dude knows his shit. He knows what he's talking about, and some of those passes he got off were just like, how the fuck do you get that? And like my notes, like, again, he's probably one of the best passers in this class, and if you put him in, if you put him on this team, I think that he's definitely going to be a kind of a lead ball handler in terms of, at least with his second unit. I would think.
Yeah, he could be. Could be, yeah, and I think he has a tighter handle than people probably give him credit for too. And he's not as bad at defense as I think people are just assuming he is because he's so small. Like, he's a really good off-ball defender. He makes the right rotations. He knows where to be, but I think like man-to-man, he struggles because he's just so skinny. And apparently he's added like 20 pounds of muscle over the last year, which is incredible if that's true, but even then he's still pretty skinny.
Yeah, so I want to say it was Olgun Ulick of ESPN in Australia. He reported that Giddey added like 15 pounds to be up into 220 at a 6'8" frame, which if that's the case, I honestly can't wait to see. And I think that he's going to be trying to play with the Boomers in Tokyo. So I would that's certainly going to be something that you want to watch. But like you were saying with his defense, his one-on-one defense isn't great, and he's just because it is like you said, his frame. He's just a little bit slow with his athleticism, but his team defense, his help defense, it's solid stuff, and he does a really lot of good things off ball. So, like one of the notes I put, he reminds me of Luka Doncic in terms of playmaking, just without the athleticism. I'm not comparing the two, but I'm just kind of comparing that certain play style, I would say. No, tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good passer. I think like with Doncic, that the guy's generational, so it's hard to like really make a one-for-one comparison. But I think Giddey can, and like this is sort of a cop-out because Ben Simmons also plays for the Australian national team. But I think he's similar to Ben Simmons in that, like, yeah, he can make every pass in the book. He knows where his teammates are at all time. His vision is incredible, and the only problem is, to maximize that skill, you got to be able to put pressure on the defense. And Ben Simmons doesn't really do that. He can get to the rim occasionally, but he's uncomfortable shooting. And Giddey, while he like shot the ball in the NBA, players are never, ever, 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 ever going to follow him above the screen. They're always going to go under. They're going to let him shoot. It's going to be hard for him to get to the rim with better athletes defending him. And so I think you have to worry a little bit like how much can he maximize his passing and his playmaking, because people are going to take that away from him in certain aspects.
Yeah, his jump shot was a little stiff, at least in the tape. I'm not sure if that was from early in the season or later in the season. He's not going to have that time he's not going to have the closeouts the NBL had come in the NBA. Those NBA closeouts are too quick for him to have such a stiff jump shot.
Yeah, I don't think players are even going to really close out on him very hard. Like, they're going to leave him open. He's not, at this point, he's not a good shooter, but it is what it is. I think you got to take him if he's there at 12, but there's also like a handful of guys who I'm like, you got to take him if they're there at 12, just because I think there is not really a lot of guys you can go wrong with at 12 for the Spurs.
I will say, at least with Giddey, at least he's taking the shots outside of the paint.
Yeah.
That's what I at least like. You might have a Ben Simmons comparison, but at least he has a little bit of a jump. He at least has a jump shot that he's willing to take. So
yeah, the only way you can mess up at 12 is Kispert, and I'll die on that
hill. Where do you think? Where do you think?
Yeah, that'd be tough.
Kispert at 17. Book it.
I think Kispert anywhere outside of like 16 or 17 or if you want to take him in the lottery and you already have the infrastructure of like a really good team, and that's like the piece you're missing, like the guy who can sort of be like a Doug McDermott or a Duncan Robinson of sorts, like, then that's fine. But for the Spurs, it doesn't make sense. Like, the dude's already about to be 23. He doesn't have a ton of upside. He's a better defender than people give him credit for. He can actually operate in the pick and roll pretty well as a passer, but there's not a lot of upside there. You pretty much know what you're getting. And if your value at 12 is Doug McDermott, unless you're like the Suns or something, and obviously they're not in the lottery, but unless you're like the Suns and you need a shooter or something like that, then no, I don't think he makes sense.
And I don't think there's really a team in the lottery that can really take Kispert in that with their lottery pick. Maybe Golden State takes him at 14 after, because they say that they do have 7, they get someone that they need, or they trade for someone. Then they get Kispert as kind of like a contingency plan for Clay. I think that could be a way to go. Yeah. But I don't really see anyone else in the lottery really having that infrastructure, like you said, Noah, to really take them. Maybe New Orleans put a shooter around Zion, but even then, there's better players around. Better players are going to be available at that point.
Like New Orleans,
yeah, they've got to figure something out. Yeah.
Or they're going to lose. I still think they're going to lose Zion and be moved to Seattle or Vegas or something. Like, I don't see that organization hanging around much longer. They're just they've had it too good to be this down bad. Like, I just don't understand it.
Do we all agree that New Orleans could be a team that could be relocated at some point in time in, like, say, the next 5 to 10 years?
I think so.
I think so.
Especially if they lose.
Yeah,
Zion.
they've got terrible branding. They've got like 2 all-stars. It maybe even 2 like a superstar and like a fringe superstar, and like I don't think anybody cares about them.
Mm-hmm.
And even with the hype that Zion gets, they can't even put a good enough team around him to make the playoffs. They missed the playoffs twice.
That's crazy.
I understand the first season where it was kind of Zion was hurt for the first part, and then you had the bubble and everything. But this season, you had a chance to do it, and you fucked that up. I don't know how you do that. And honestly, if you put Zion on any other team, I think that team can be a borderline playoff team.
If you put Zion on any other team, even a bad team, they are a playoff team. Like, New Orleans is a perfect shitstorm of just like, I don't know. If you put Zion,
It was weird.
in place of anyone besides De'Aaron Fox on the Kings, they're a playoff team. Like, I don't get New Orleans, dude. I don't get it. You have one of the best passes in the league in Lonzo. You have Brandon Ingram.
Yeah.
You have Zion. Like, you have everyone around you. Like, that team is like I think it's just an anomaly. Like, this year especially, it's just a weird anomaly of just like bad decisions, weird coaching, bad schemes, poor vision of like the franchise and how players should be utilized. It was so weird. Like,
who put Steven Adams there?
Yeah,
Who put Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe, two guys who are like not shooters, especially like, okay, Bledsoe for a guard is a non-shooter. He can shoot a little bit, but like Steven Adams is basically only going to stand in the dunker spot. Like, it doesn't matter what you do with him. He's never ever. No one's gonna. Even if you put him on the 3-point line, people are going to crowd the paint because he can't shoot. Like, his only career three is like this jacked thing he threw from like 3/4 court. That's his only career three. So yeah, it was like the worst roster construction of all time. And I worried about that, and I talked to some people last year about it, and it didn't work out. Like, it was doomed to fail.
And the only reason they beat us in the first game was they had 21 more free throws than us. We lost by like 2 or 3. Like, and you saw that as a trend. Like, that team was getting ridiculous amounts of free throws in close games. It was nuts. Like, they'd be up like 4 or 5 on a team, but have 17 more free throws. And I don't know if you say that that's like shady reffing or what, but like that team was set up to succeed by the league, the refs, like by Adam Silver, by God himself. Like it just didn't happen, and it's just so strange, man. And I get the roster construction, like Steven Adams, so that's like awful. And did they trade JJ Redick this season, right? Like in the middle of the season?
Yeah, they had to.
Yeah.
Because Redick was like, y'all are down bad. Like, y'all are down cataclysmically. Like, I don't know, I can't help y'all. And then he went and played for the Mavericks in civilian clothes, basically, because he didn't do anything.
And then you add on what JJ said about that front office, where
dude.
David Griffin is just not a trustworthy guy.
Yeah. That's the one instance I wouldn't blame like a superstar like Zion force his way out. That's like that, and then like LeBron's first stint with Cleveland. Like, I just, you do you, King. Like, I'm behind you on that. You need to get in a better situation because, like, with some teams, like Portland's starting to look like that, but like with the Spurs, with us and Kawhi, like, we didn't deserve that. I mean, there are certain teams that do this. The Rockets didn't deserve it with Harden, I'll say that much. But man, I mean, how do you lose Anthony Davis, win the lottery, and now you're about to lose Zion Williamson over the course of a couple years? It is astounding.
That's hard to fuck up. It really is. And I don't know what the direction is for that Pelicans team. We've seen it time and time again that nothing's really worked in New Orleans before. There's a reason they moved to Charlotte. There's a reason that they rebranded to the Pelicans. And it's just, I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure if it's the ownership and their decision making, if it's who they pick to run the front office. David Griffin, I think, is an extremely overrated GM in my opinion. He got bailed out by having LeBron on that roster, and even then, my lord, how many times did they fucking change players in the middle of the season? What, I forgot which season it was that they traded nearly half the roster at the trade deadline. And,
are you talking about in Cleveland?
Yeah, in Cleveland with David Griffin in charge.
It was the year that they had D Wade and then like George Hill and then like Isaiah Thomas, and like that was just the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. Also, like I think it had to have been 2009, 18 or 19, right?
It's like 17 or 18. It's one of the two.
That's the season That's the season before they drafted Colin Sexton, I think, because that's the season LeBron left. Like, they were just trying to keep LeBron.
Yeah, it was the last LeBron season.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that Pelicans organization.
Yeah.
Should we just call them the Seattle Sonics at this point? Because that's going to happen.
Dude, I love seeing teams in our district like the downfall, like our district, you know what I'm talking about.
Division.
Division. Yeah.
Did you just call it a district?
Like, sorry, I was talking.
Yeah, what's
about,
all the same?
I was talking about high school sports earlier with my granddad. But yeah, our division, like, dude, I hope they all crash and burn. I don't give a shit. But like, it's like watching a plane crash. No, it's like watching a meteor hit an asteroid that crashed through a plane and landed on a preschool. Like, you're just like, it's like the most vulgar display of just awfulness and failure, and like the most catastrophically, weirdly, just like, you can't even describe it. Like, I don't know how that team doesn't make the playoffs. I don't know how that team is failing so hard with Zion Williamson, who is, as far as I'm concerned, besides maybe Giannis, probably the most humble and likable superstar in the league. And he is an incredibly humble guy on the microphone. He's so easy to like. He seems like he's pretty easy to please. You know, he doesn't get out there and complain much. He hustles his butt off. He worked through an injury. He came back too early after that injury, didn't complain. And it sounds like his family is the one saying that they want him out there. It's not even him saying. So it's like, how do you screw that up with someone who seems like such an amazing person to coach and to employ to have as the face of your franchise? It's just insane. Like, I just don't get it.
Noah, do we need to give you like a microphone arm? Because I just see you holding that microphone. I feel like we got to get you like into a mic arm.
Dude, there's a microphone arm.
Like my stand
Amazon for like $12, and it's my metal microphone arm, and that thing is up the bomb.
Yeah, not to even like flex literally right now, but this thing is low key kind of heavy, and I've been trying to like lift weights and like get in better shape this year because I just was a fat piece of shit during COVID, and like
lost
that,
a lot.
My arms being tired from like lifting weights, plus like this mic. Like this has been a painful experience holding this mic.
Like noticeably slimmer,
so,
man.
Yeah, I need to get like a thing. I appreciate it. I've been trying to run and like get in better shape, so I'm trying because I got up to like my highest weight ever at like 164. Oh man. Yeah, but I need y'all to recommend me like an arm. But also like I'm really small. Ty can tell you I'm like really, really short. Like I'm 5'6", so
yeah, but you have
like that's like sort of on the heavier end.
Like
funny enough, the highest I weighed was about 2 months ago, and I've lost some since then because I had that really awful bulging disc back injury. I couldn't move. I went up to exactly 264, so I was 100 more than you.
Damn.
But I'm losing it. I'm getting it off. You can ask Ty about, like, we were watching the election together, and I was like laying down on my stomach on my bed for like 4 days, and that's what I did for like 2 months. I just couldn't move. Gained so much weight, dude. Like, I gained like 35 pounds or something in 4 months.
Yeah, Nick was stuck for a while. Like I was like, "Are you still at home?" Like, and he's, "Yeah, I'm still doing." I was like, "Damn, it's been a while at this point." And you were just...
I could play video games for like 3 hours a day, maybe 2, or like sit in my chair. It was like, I'm done. I have to lay down. That's what got me addicted to TikTok, because I was just on my stomach like watching TikTok, and yeah. But I'm losing it. I'm getting back in shape, getting ready for the Spurs float party.
Yeah, you've got the gun show going. I saw you the other day. You had a gym pick. I don't know if everybody got to saw it, but yeah, the gun show is real over there.
Dude, yeah. Like, we got the
right. You
got the finger guns, and then we got the gun. We're getting back in shape, babies.
I'm like
hot boy summer.
Over COVID, I gained a little bit of weight. I'm still a fairly slim guy, but I have like a stomach now, and
I started weight like a pencil. Like, you just don't see it.
I look like a pencil, but but once I lift up my shirt, it's not gonna look good. But I'm like 155 at the moment, which is one of the most I've ever, the heaviest I've ever weighed, which is like
You're also like 5'10".
I'm
So like
5'10".
155 is super thin.
I have a slim physique, and so I have that glorious purpose, I guess.
Yeah.
But
No, actually, we go ahead, Ty. Sorry.
so I was getting back into working out since everything's opening up. I bought a little membership to a basketball court that Noah goes to. I'm like, I'm fucking ready. I'm ready to get this. I'm ready to start. I'm ready to start fucking flaming it from deep now to play some basketball. And then yeah, my back said fuck you. So
Yeah,
it's getting better.
Go
I guess I think this week I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to shoot some hoops, and I think I'm going to give it a chance because I'm able to do a little bit more. Like I used to be able to not be able to sit in my chair that long. Like if I was sitting in my chair for like the amount of time that we've been doing this, I would start feeling it in my back. I don't feel it right now, which is good.
Yeah.
But it's still a little bit. It's not perfect, but it's much better than it was like say a month ago. So I'm hopefully going to get back out here. Noah's gonna kick my ass in basketball. I just know it. I'm out, back out of shape
For
as
sure.
it
He's
is.
gonna destroy us, man. Hey Noah,
No back or good back. Go for it.
Exactly. Do you guys think there is like someone with all-star franchise player potential, max potential in that 12 range? And also, along with that, I don't think this goes hand in hand really, but what are your feelings on Jalen Johnson?
Yeah, sorry. I don't mean to like leave out of nowhere, so this is gonna be my last question, and then I got to dip. But yeah, with like Jalen Johnson, I like him. I just don't know what to think of him. He's like sort of similar to James Wiseman from a year ago, where he like put up some really good numbers for a really good school, but then dropped out. And so we mostly know what we know about him from his high school tape. So he has some playmaking potential. He could shoot a little bit. He's got good size. He's got some defensive versatility, but like I didn't see it that much because I didn't really get to watch very much Duke even when he was there. So I don't know what to think of him. And then in terms of like guys at the 12 range, probably not. Like most years is the answer is no. And I think also this year's probably no, but that doesn't mean there isn't like an all-star maybe in there. Like I think if you're looking at maybe the best player who you could take who might be an all-star one day, I really like Josh Giddey. I'm super high on Josh Giddey. I think Kai Jones is another guy who, like, if he reaches the ceiling, yes, but besides that, no, you're probably just getting like serviceable starters and role players.
What do you think
Garuba's another guy. I like him, but okay. Yeah. So for Garuba, I think like it's funny because like the only pro comparison I've ever seen for him is Draymond Green, and I think it's like fairly accurate. He's a amazing defender, like someone who to me could be the best defender in this class. He could probably compete for a Defensive Player of the Year award just with his versatility alone. But on the offensive end, there's a lot of questions. Like he's an excellent short roll passer, sort of like Draymond has become with Golden State over the years, but he just can't shoot. He can't shoot. He can't knock down free throws really. He can dribble a little bit, but I wouldn't trust him to dribble in the NBA. So I don't know. Like maybe if everything works out and he's in a situation where he can be like the third best guy on a championship team and therefore get the all-star nod because they're so good, they have so many wins, but otherwise probably not. But I like Garuba at 12 too. I just, it's going to be hard for them to screw up the 12th pick.
Yeah. So
well,
Noah,
coming on, dude.
Yeah, Noah, where can they find all your lovely information? Of course, for Pounding the Rock and also your new podcast.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at @n_Magaro. You can find my writing at Pounding the Rock. A new podcast, Alamo City Limits. We have 3 episodes came out. Spurs Nation helped me get to 3,800 streams during the first week, so y'all are amazing. And that's about it. Yeah, it was a really good first debut week. And then obviously you can find me at The Line, where we've got Nick, we've got Ty, we've got Mac, and myself. So yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry I have to dip out a little bit early, but I appreciate y'all letting me hop on with y'all.
He's going to have more cobbler. He's not going to share.
Yeah.
I am. I'm not gonna lie. I probably am.
Oh, it's thank you, Noah. We'll see you later this week. So, all right, now it's back over to Nick and I. We'll probably
I'm gonna take a quick restroom break real quick.
We're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna talk with everyone else while I adjust your image. But so let me just kind of run through some comments while we're here. Mag fans are freaking out right now. They certainly are. That's not going well for them. It's just overall, probably the team with the least like amount of like stuff up in the air is probably Memphis, then followed by San Antonio, where San Antonio might have questions, but they don't have turmoil within their front office or anything like that. I'd say, and someone, Josh Perez of Air Alamo did this too, where he kind of said like he kind of ranked the chaos control. So, but I had the Rockets at 3 because they're about to be in a good situation, but then you have Dallas and New Orleans just at the bottom. It's not good. Thanks. This stream is also going to be brought to you by the lovely Spurs Zone and also Locked On Spurs, hosted by Jeff Garcia. Make sure to check out Locked On Spurs. There's actually an episode with me on it today that we recorded last week that we talk a little bit more draft prospects. If you want to kind of get my opinions as well as my tired opinions, because I did this while pulling an all-nighter after an all-nighter. So if you want some more of my opinions, at least on some draft prospects, go check that out. And make sure to check out the Spurs Zone and News for San Antonio and Fox 20 as well. You can find a lot of my articles there. We had the news of that Will Hardy did go to Boston, and a lot of some other draft prospects. Keep it up over there for all your information. Again, check out Locked On Spurs wherever you get your podcasts, as well as check out the Spurs Zone. You can make sure to follow Jeff G Spurs Zone on Twitter for all that stuff too. So Nick, is there any other comments that you want to run through real quick? Because I know that we saw that news. We saw that news about Golden State kind of shopping that 7th pick. I know we talked about it a little bit, but what do you think about that, honestly?
I don't know. I feel like we're in play for anything this year, but I don't expect anything. I just don't expect much because I don't expect much, at least until we hear if Pop retires. If Pop doesn't retire, I have no idea what's going to happen. If he does retire, maybe we push more towards a trade. I think we're in play for anything, but yeah, I just wouldn't expect anything. That's just me.
Yeah, it's at a point where and I think a lot of Spurs fans are worried about this, that we are going into it. We're going to a time that is like, we don't know what the fuck's going to happen. We have no idea what's going to happen, and I think some Spurs fans just don't like that, and I don't blame them. No one likes the unknown path, and we're going down that unknown path. But you're going to have to get used to it. I think this season is going to be the season that the Spurs kind of figure out what they have, what they're going to use, and just what works out for them. And
yeah,
while it might not seem exciting, but I think everyone can agree that we want to see what these young guys can do, and I think that's what we're going to get this upcoming season. Is that guaranteed? Probably not. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case or not, but
yeah.
But I'm not going to be against it.
The best thing you can do as a Spurs fan is have no expectations.
Yeah, that's probably that's it. I think that's the best way to go. Don't have expectations going into this offseason. You're going to be disappointed. What did I say going into the NBA draft? Draft lottery. I said that don't have expectations that you are going to get a top 4 pick. You're overhyping yourself, and you're going to be setting yourself up for disappointment. And what happened? I saw a lot of people disappointed that we didn't get the number. We didn't get in top 4. And yeah. I put myself in the mindset that we were always going to land at 12. And so, because if you did land in top 4, you're like, fuck yeah, you can be genuinely excited and surprised. But I'd rather set myself up for surprise than set myself up for disappointment, if that's the case. So this is going to be a weird offseason. The Spurs are going, and I think it's even weird for the Spurs front office because they are going to be making tough decisions. They're going to be having to make choices in terms of moving on from veteran players. They might need to move on from Patty, who's been a kind of a mainstay in that front office. And they're going into a time that they've never have had to deal with. They're going to a time of that have more cap space than they've ever had. They're going with one of the youngest, probably with the youngest rosters in franchise history, or at least in the past 25 years. So it's going to be new for everyone, not just fans. It's going to be new for that front office. So, like Nick said, don't go in with expectations. You're just going to set yourself up for disappointment, no matter what happens.
Yeah. man, knock on wood. I mean, we could just like sign our 3 vets back, including Demar. Like, I have no idea. If that happens, I'll be extremely upset, but I'll get over it.
I think that's worst case scenario in my opinion. Maybe I don't think it's worst case if say that you do bring back like Patty and Rudy. I don't think that's worst case. If you bring out all 3, if you bring back those 2 plus Demar, then something's not right.
Yeah, without a doubt, especially if it's on a deal more than like 3 years long or something.
Yeah, it's something's not right. Also, I'd be questioning Demar, what are you doing? You know that there's
I don't know what DeMar would be doing at all. If I was DeMar, I'd sign and trade to California or I'd go to the Knicks. Like, I don't know, man.
So, Jake the Snake, what's the schedule for live streams? I'm kind of still trying to figure that. I'm trying to figure that out. I think we're going to start doing some Monday stuff at least. I think Mondays is always kind of a good day for live streams. We're going to be doing these a lot more often. I'm at least planning to do 2 of these a week. Now, if we say that we have some breaking news happen, then I'm probably go on live in an instant, talk about stuff. But we're certainly going to be covering draft stuff. We're going to be covering any news that happens. And of course, if there's any hot topic going on in Spurs Twitter, we're going to talk about it. That's what we did tonight. That's what we're going to be doing for the rest of the offseason. Yeah. And I honestly can't wait till next season because put aside the fact that it's going to be kind of a different team, but I think we're going to be doing a lot more stuff. If you search on Twitch, you're going to find the other At the Line that happened at the beginning of the season that fucking went nowhere.
Yeah.
That was different. Yeah, that was something. If you were keeping track of all that, you kind of know what happened. It was not a great situation, but I'm excited to do live streams and get to talk with you guys. I love having the chat here. I'm probably going to try to implement something that I can have you guys come on. If anyone wants to come on audio-wise, kind of like what the Spotify Green Room does, maybe have you guys come on, ask us some verbal questions or something like that. There's a lot of potential with these live streams, and I'm really excited about doing it. But expect at least 2 a week. I'm going to try to do this 2 a week. I got a cam link.
Let's say at least 1 a week. We'll shoot for 2.
Well, you will see my face at least twice a week. It's gonna be a rotating cast. We got what do you say?
I said don't threaten them with that. Goodness, but
I know I'm setting expectations, but at least expect to see me twice a week. But there's gonna be a rotating cast of guys in terms of who we see and who's available. We got Nick, we got Noah, we got Mac. You could have one of them. You got all 4 of us. You never know. We have a lot. I love to think that the Spurs writing community too is a pretty kind of close, tight-knit community that everyone interacts with each other. So I'm hoping to have more guys on, have Josh come back on, of course. I'd love to have Tom back come on. He was on At the Line a few years ago too, so I would love to see that. We talked about that at the beginning of the stream. I am gonna post this on YouTube and as well as post a condensed version on our podcast feed, so make sure to check that out. If you haven't, we are also going to start streaming on YouTube. I got the 24-hour thing started, so that should be a go next stream. But if you want to look at any of the last streams, go check that out. YouTube At the Line Podcast. Just search our names too. I know it's weird. I don't know why YouTube algorithm fucking sucks. So you'll hopefully find it. Make sure to subscribe here, follow here, or whatever. What is that on Twitch?
What?
Is it subscribe or what?
On Twitch, it's follow until we get some type of affiliate or something, and then they can subscribe, which is money. Or it costs money unless you have Twitch Prime. But no, on Twitch, follow.
So yeah, follow us here on Twitch for get notifications for whenever we go live. Same thing on YouTube. Nick, we need a finger gun. Hooper wants it. There you go.
Hey, buddy.
But then make sure to check out the podcast itself wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that lovely stuff. Or you can go to atthelinepodcast.com for all of the lovely information where you can get this. Again, I will be posting a condensed version of what we talked about on to the podcast platform so you guys can listen to it. I know I like to listen to stuff, so I get you.
Yeah.
So what's up with DeMar? Most things once I traded to get him, be interesting to see where you go. Get him. I don't think he signs straight. So yeah, you're going to do a sign trade. It's not happening until after the draft, most likely. But now there is a way where teams can agree to a trade before before or during the draft. It might, but the trade might not officially go through until after the draft, until like the new. We saw this a few seasons ago with the AD Laker trade. That didn't happen until after the draft, even though it was agreed upon before, just because of a new season, new financial season, and everything like that. So we saw where guys got picked underneath the Lakers name, but they were not going to LA. They were going to New Orleans probably. So you could see trades get approved, trades get agreed upon, and all that before or even during the draft, but you might not officially go through until after. So I think that's where a possibility of a sign trade can happen. There is some downsides to that. We saw this with Bogdan going to Milwaukee, where that trade kind of blew up because Bogdan they couldn't get into agreement with the sign trade. So you never know. It's really weird.
Yeah.
But
I have no idea, man.
It's again, don't have expectations this offseason. We don't know what's going on. Anything to the Dallas Spurs trade rumor? Not really. I haven't really seen anything legit. Now it's been conversation and people talking about it, but I haven't seen anything legit about it. Because Kristaps Porzingis' name has kind of been thrown around there lately, and then you had the rumor that Kristaps doesn't like Luka and all that. It's just that's really weird. If you're trading DeMar, where would he fit the best in a way that he can also benefit the Spurs? You think Warriors? I feel like that's a long shot in my opinion, just because of the money situation there. But it's not that.
He's asking what I thought he was asking. Where would he fit the best in a way that can benefit the Spurs?
Yeah.
Warriors. That's the best way. The Warriors for sure, and then Cleveland.
I'm just curious, how much money would DeMar get then? I feel like he would have to take a pay cut.
28.
Like maybe low 20s. He's not going to get 28. At least with Golden State.
I think that. I mean, he would get minimum 24.
It's going to be in the 20s minimum, because he was borderline All-Star this season and had some of the best.
But he wasn't.
Yeah, borderline All-Star. That's what I said.
I'm saying like agents will use that. Say, well, he wasn't he wasn't an All-Star. So yeah, they could try and give him less for that because that'd be a knock on him. But then you can look at his progression as a playmaker, what he could do for Steph and them, and it's like, I don't know. I think he fits perfectly in that team, though, without a doubt, like perfectly.
Yeah. Especially having the shooters and all that. Having the shooters there. Now the defense is probably going to suffer. I think I said this last time, but having the shooters there in Clay and Steph, that's probably a great move for them. It just depends on. I'm curious of what else the Warriors would want in a trade though, because I doubt it's just DeMar going there. You're most likely packing a June 12th pick, of course, but imagine if the Spurs got 7th, but were able to keep 12th and not like sacrifice more than one young guy.
That'd be pretty sick. I don't know, man. That's hard to think about. Like keeping the 12th and then getting the 7th. I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah, it depends. I just say that because the Warriors might seem desperate to get rid of money. They have two probably overloaded contracts in Draymond and Wiggins, and they're at least going to want to get rid of one of those. That cap situation is fucking hell over there. So
yeah, I mean they sold their soul for 3 rings, so they got their rings, man. But I feel like they're in a position to push for a 4th one.
Now, if you add on DeMar and not sacrifice too much, maybe. But again, the downfall of that team in the past 2 seasons has been that supporting cast, which has been non-existent because of that money situation.
Yeah. Man, I mean, they're still going to have 14. They're going to have whatever free agents they want.
I I wouldn't say that's so though, because again, the cap situation.
Well, the
they can't
downfall
sign.
of this team has not only been like supporting it, like they're getting Clay back. They're gonna have a year to all mesh together because the thing about this team is it's a lot of young talent with Steph, Dre, and Clay. Clay hasn't played. I think Dre was out for a little bit, and they haven't really had a stable season to work through. And we saw that with our own team a little bit, although we actually have a coach. I'm not sure if Steve Kerr is going to stay there. If he does, then that's bad for them. If they fire him or if there's a mutual parting of ways, then that'd be good for them because they can get whoever they want. I don't know. I think it's being overblown a bit. I think if they traded Wiggins for DeMar and they have even Clay back at 70% of what he was, they're a contender like instantly.
Yeah, they were the ninth. They were the ninth seed. I'm not good. Again, they were close to making the playoffs this season. If they didn't run into a Laker team, they were close.
Yeah.
And so I gotta give them credit on that. But it's again, this offseason is so tough to like really check. Everyone kind of has similar questions. We see the same questions every night now, just because everyone is kind of curious about what's going to happen. So, call me crazy, but Rudy Gay might do all right with the Warriors, even though he might need to take a peek.
Oh yeah, dude, he would do so well with the Warriors, man.
Again, I think the Warriors have a potential to be like the number one offense team. Defense, I don't know where that's going to be, but man, they do have potential to be like a really one of the best offensive teams in the league.
I mean, defense, they're still going to, like, Clay's athleticism may take a hit, but he doesn't defend with his athleticism. He defends with his IQ. They still have Draymond, who's still an all-world defender. I have no idea. I think they'll be good. I think they'll be really good.
Yeah, I'm not saying this. It's not going to be a defense that tanks your team or anything like that. It's probably going to be a respectable defense, but again, there's a lot of questions marks. Like you said this last stream where this league's going to get shuffled up one way or another, and it's going to be pretty damn interesting. Especially now that you're having teams like the Suns and the Bucks go most likely going to the finals. Between those two teams,
yeah.
And even then, you have a Hawks team that's up and rising. You have a lot of teams emerging, and that's going to be really fun to watch. Now it's like a 4-point game with like 7 minutes left in the fourth. Don't know what happened there. Kind of watching it. Someone tripped. That's a push by Paul George. Did you get a tech? Sorry, I'm watching the game now. But any last questions for the stream tonight before we wrap up? It's getting slow. Noah's always like helping us push through. So, all right, if that's not it, make sure to check out Locked On Spurs and the Spurs Zone for all your Spurs news, information, and even more content. I know everyone's dying for Spurs content, and they definitely got it there. So go check that out. Nick, where can they find you and your new upcoming content?
Right now, I may have something to announce next podcast, but right now I'm just at NICYARBRO, which is at Nic Yarbrough on Twitter. And then someday I may upload to my podcast. I have no idea. I've been having too much fun with this one.
Well, you're over here, so you don't need too much. I'm doing all the work for you. I'm making life easy.
Exactly.
So
That's what I like.
Make sure you go follow him.
Just at Nic Yarbrough on Twitter. That's all I've got right now.
Right. And again, you can find all my lovely content at the Ty Yeager. Make sure to follow At The Line on Twitter as well, At The Line Pod. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow here on Twitch, and make sure to follow wherever you get your podcast for the condensed version of this episode. And for the full stream, we can go to YouTube right after this. That's where I am going to be uploading it. But and again, you can also find out all my articles and everything lovely at the Spurs Zone itself as well. So for Nic Yarbrough, I'm Ty Yeager, and for Noah Magaro-Geroge, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, guys.
Guys.